It's Friday again, Party Animal Nation, and you're listening to Sounds of Louisiana podcast right here on the radio network. I am hashtag RDM Russell Devin McLean. I'm a musician, a music lover, and I'm broadcasting to you from Radio Random Studios here in the Bayou State of Louisiana, as I do every Wednesday and Friday on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, SoundCloud, or wherever you're listening to us from. I want to thank you for hitting the download button. I'm going to go back in time on today's show, back to January 16th, 2015, a little interview I conducted with the one and only Mr. T. Graham Brown. But before we get into that interview, I want to send a special thanks to the sponsors of the Radio Random Network. I'm talking about Racket Sound and Lighting. Racket Sound and Lighting is a full-service entertainment, sound reinforcement, stage lighting, and DJ services. It's big production on a musician's budget, and that's one reason why when I do a gig, I hire Racket Sound and Lighting. Contact Bob Tolar today for your next event at 225-773-4639. One more time, that number is 225-773-4639. And I can't forget about Keller Williams Realty Premier partner, Tanya Halford. Tanya can help you with buying or selling a new home. Call her today for your free consultation at 225-202-0657. That's 225-202-0657. You too can support the Radio Random Network and keep our shows free by visiting our official website at www.rrnonline.com. All you have to do is click the Show Some Love tab, and it'll give you all the links to rate and review the show on iTunes or Stitcher Radio and much, much more. All right, y'all, if y'all missed last week's show, I got a chance to talk to Mr. Sammy Kershaw about his brand new album, I Won't Back Down. All you have to do is subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, SoundCloud, Sprinkler, or wherever you get your podcast from to hear that great interview. I want to send a special thanks out to Kurt Webster, Webster PR, for hooking me up with Sammy Kershaw last week. We got some great shows lined up. June 26th, right here on the Radio Random Network, I'm going to be joined by Louise Harrison. Let me give you a little insight on who Louise Harrison is. Louise Harrison is the older sister of George Harrison from the Beatles. She's got a brand new book out. It's called My Kid Brothers Band, a.k.a. the Beatles. And she's going to be right here. We're going to talk to her, and it's going to be a great show. I can't wait for that. I'm also in the works of possibly getting Lee Greenwood. God bless the USA. You know, all the great hits that he's got. He may be on here trying to shoot for possibly 4th of July. That'd be a great 4th of July show. It's in the works. We're trying to do it. We're on a roll here at the Radio Random Network. That's why I want to always thank each and every one of you for supporting, sharing, liking, tweeting. You know, you can follow us on Twitter at RRN Live. We're also on Instagram at Radio Random Network. All one word, a little @ and then Radio Random Network. And with all that said, we're going to go back in time to January 16th, 2015, where I had the chance to talk to the one and only T. Graham Brown. Now, keep in mind, he was about to head to the Grammys. It was his very first nomination for his new album. You'll hear me talk about all of that. Be sure, rate, review, subscribe, share, tweet, all that great stuff. We'll be back next Wednesday with a brand new episode. Enjoy this interview with the one and only T. Graham Brown. He has had over 13 studio albums and well over 23 singles on the Billboard charts. This year he's nominated for his very first Grammy for his brand new album, Forever Changed. There's only one, and he's on the Sounds of Louisiana as my special guest this week, none other than Mr. T. Graham Brown. How you doing today, my brother?
Brother, I'm doing really well. I'm sitting here. I was just watching Elvis Presley Viva Las Vegas on TV and watching him win the race and get Ann Margaret and marry her. Yes. Oh, it was a beautiful thing.
Oh, man, that's a classic. It's always cool to see the guy get the girl and win the race at the end of the movie these days with the stuff they got going out today.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. If you could, tell us a little bit about your background in music and give us a little bit of history of maybe how you got started in the music industry.
Well, I went to the University of Georgia, and I started singing when I was about 18, I guess, singing for a living. I just grew up in a household. We all went to church, you know, but there was never any singing around the house or anything. My mom and daddy, none of them played any instruments or anything. I grew up, I could hear our house backed up to the railroad track, and I could hear the black church across the tracks, and they were great. They had a band. That was the first band I ever heard. And I just sang all my life, just, you know, messing around, and started doing it for a living in 1973.
Now, in 1973, was your mind made up that music was something that you was going to do for the rest of your life, or on a professional level? Give us a little insight on what your thought process was back then.
I don't know what I was thinking, if it would be anything that I would do the rest of my life, but it just kind of turned into that. Sheila and I moved to Nashville in 1982, and I started singing demos and writing songs, and I got noticed by Capitol Records, and they signed me, and we cut I Tell It Like It Used to Be, and they put it out, and it was a hit. And so I was kind of off to the races.
Now, what were some of the challenges that you had to face prior to the release of I Tell It Like It Used to Be?
Well, it really was pretty easy once I moved to Nashville. But I was living down in Athens, Georgia, and we were in for nothing. It was hard to make a living, but we moved to Nashville, and Sheila got a job, and I just did demos and just got noticed. My voice got passed around on demo tapes, and they just noticed me. It was really pretty easy looking back.
Well, let's talk a little bit about some of your influences in music. Were there any artists or styles that played a major part in your signature sound?
Yeah, I didn't have many records growing up. I had a Jerry Lee Lewis album, and I had a Johnny Cash album, but I didn't have but 2 or 3 albums and a few 45s when I grew up. We didn't really have a stereo in our house at all, and I had one of those little bitty record players about as big as a shoebox. But this little radio station was a 5,000-watt radio station. They didn't have any format. They would play. They might play Johnny Cash, and then play Percy Sledge, and then play the Rolling Stones, and then play Aretha Franklin, and then play Jerry Lee, and they just played all kinds of stuff. So that's what I grew up listening to, was that little radio station.
Now, another Georgia native actually played a major role on your music when you were younger was Otis Redding. What was your thoughts on Otis Redding?
Yeah, well, Otis was from about 70 miles from where I grew up in Georgia. And, you know, Otis was just a country singer to me. I mean, he was a black guy and had a lot of soul, but he was a guy from the country. And so, yeah, I try to sing like him, or I used to try to. Now I sing like myself, but he was one of the ones I tried to sound like when I was first starting.
Skipping around a little bit, in 1988 you released Darlene. Is that something that you wrote, or was that something that was pitched to you?
No, some buddies of mine wrote it, and they pitched it to me, and I walked into a production meeting with Ron Chancellor, the guy that produced that album, and I said, man, I think I got a hit. And I had it in my back pocket, and he said, I think I got a hit too. And he pulled the tape out of his briefcase, and I pulled that tape out of my back pocket and laid it down. It was the same song. It was Darlene. So we thought, man, that's pretty good. So we cut it, and it was a #1.
I tell you what we're going to do right now, T. We're going to take a break. We're going to pay a bill. When we come back, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about your commercials and some of the things that you was involved in. So don't go away. We'll be right back after these messages. Hey, I just want to remind everybody that today's podcast is brought to you by Audible.com. You can get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/RRN2015. There's over 150,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. For the listeners of Sounds of Louisiana podcasts, Audible is offering a free audiobook download with a 30-day free trial to give you an opportunity to check out their services. I personally recommend Face the Music, the Paul Stanley story. It's narrated by Paul Stanley. And Mudtooth Says Outlaw, Waylon, Willing, Chris, and the Renegades of Nashville is one of his favorites on audibletrial.com. To download your free audiobook today, go to audibletrial.com/RRN2015. Again, that's audibletrial.com/RRN2015 for your free audiobook download. All right, we're back here with the one and only Mr. T. Graham Brown. And T, aside from making hits, one thing you're also known for is jingles for commercials and brands and such. Can you give us a little insight of what that experience was like?
Oh, that was fun, man. You know, I can't believe that's been 25 years ago. I did a whole lot of advertising. I sang a lot of commercials, probably as many as anybody ever in the business. I did every fast food and every beer and soft drink and car and truck. And I did Sometimes You Feel Like a Nut, Sometimes You Don't. I did that for 7 years. And I did credit cards and seed powders and goodies powders and all kinds of stuff.
Or can you give us some insight on touring and balancing the home life?
Well, at the first of it, I was gone all the time. I was gone like over 300 days a year, and it was all kind of a blur. And yeah, it just changed. I slowed down gradually, and you know, I still got a band and a bus and all that, and Sheila travels with me now that our son's grown up. And, but I come home, I cut the grass, and we make house payments, and just like anybody else, you know. And my life's pretty normal, really.
Yes, indeed. Well, let's talk a little bit about your new album coming out. You got a lot of collaborations on it, including one with Mr. Steve Cropper, correct?
Yeah, Cropper played some guitar on it, and he's an old friend of mine. Gosh, I've been knowing him, I know, at least 30 years, and was the first time we ever worked together on stage. And he produced and wrote some of the greatest songs, you know, that I grew up singing and listening to. And I mean, shoot, he wrote In the Midnight Hour, and he wrote Sitting on the Dock of the Bay, and 6, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9. And seems like he wrote, I don't know if he wrote Soul Man or Knock on Wood, something like that. Anyway, he wrote a bunch of those Memphis songs, and got him. And then I called up a lot of friends. I called up Leon Russell, and he's another guy I've been knowing 30 years, and I've sung on his album before. And so I called him and see if he would return the favor. And I called Jason Crabb. He's one of the greatest gospel singers going. He's a really soulful white guy. And I called the Oak Ridge Boys. And all these people I've known for a long, long time and done shows with. And the Booth Brothers and a band called Three Bridges and Sonia Isaacs, she just sings like an angel. And my brother Jimmy Fortune was with the Statler Brothers 25 years, and he came over and sang on Wine in the Water. And I don't know who I'm forgetting. Vince Gill, gosh, I can't believe I didn't say him first.
Marty Raybon.
He's an old friend. And yeah, Marty didn't sing on this project. Marty and I sang together on a project about 2 years ago, a gospel project, but But he didn't sing on this one. But a bunch of them did, and it was a lot of fun, man. It was just a whole lot of fun.
Yes, indeed. Now you is a Grammy nomination. Is this your first Grammy nomination, T?
Yeah, ain't that amazing? It's it's the first Grammy nomination, and Sony Records is just making it, manufacturing it, and marketing it, and distributing it. I'm 60 years old, back on a major label, man. It's crazy. I ain't ever heard of anybody doing that before. It's pretty wild.
Yes, indeed. Now, what do you think about today's music, T?
Well, to be honest with you, I don't listen to it. I listen to people like Gene Watson and Mel Street and old school guys, Johnny Cash. I've just been listening to Johnny Cash at Folsom Prison and Johnny Cash at San Quentin, and I listen to Merle Haggard. I've been listening to a lot of James Brown lately, live at the Apollo in 1962. That's the best live record ever made. I was listening to Percy Sledge the other night, Marvin Gaye. I listen to a lot of different things, but I love Earth, Wind, and Fire and the Ohio Players, and I love Jerry Lee, and I'm all over the place.
Yes, indeed. Now you mentioned a name that I very seldom I know of him because of my great grandpa, Mel Street. Now that's a name that's very
one of my
uncommon to hear. Borrowed Angel.
Borrowed Angel, that's right, man. Mel Street is just killer. He was one of the guys that I really thought was a great, great singer. You know, he killed himself when he was about 40, something like that. But I thought he was I still do think he's one of the greatest all time, country singers. If he'd have lived, he'd have been a way, way bigger thing than he was, and I think he was still on his way up, but, it's just sad that some of these guys die young. It's like my brother Keith Whitley, man. We were like brothers, and he would have been the biggest thing ever, probably, him and Hank Williams, but
Well, can you share some of your... Can you share some memories of Keith Whitley? You've worked with Keith before?
Oh, yeah. We worked together, and when he died, we had just worked together like 2 days before that. No, man, we were just good friends, and we were good friends on the road. It was really funny. We went out to eat one night with Sheila, and I went out to eat with Keith and Lori Morgan when they were married at the time, and they were the only people I've ever seen in my life that smoked cigarettes while they ate. We're eating supper, and they'd take a bite of food and chew it up and swallow it, and then take a big drag off a cigarette, and it was just really hillbilly, I'm telling you.
Yes, indeed. Now, back to Mel Street. I keep going back to that. I want to go back to that because, again, that's another, that's a name that I've been doing this, and I've talked to a lot of people, and I've never heard anybody mention the name other than my great-grandpa. And it was sad the way it ended, but do you know his real name by any chance?
Man, I can't call it if it ain't Mel Street. I know it's on some album covers that I got, but I can't remember.
King Malachi.
What now?
King Malachi from the Bible.
Wow.
Yes, indeed.
Well, I don't know why he changed his name. I like that name better.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. He's done a lot of good songs.
Man, I got everything Mel Street ever recorded that I know of. Yeah, Mel Street, boy, he could sing a song, that's for sure.
Yes, indeed. Now, are you still touring? You're still currently touring. You said you got the major album, you got the Grammy nomination. You're on a major label at the age of 60. You're still on the road too, correct?
Oh yeah, man. I think we're going out next week. I can't remember where, but yeah, like I said, I got a band and a bus and the same, just like always. And I don't know how many shows we'll do this year, but we'll probably do, 100 maybe, something like that.
Wow. Now, you were talking about you're out. Certainly we're going to be promoting the new album, Forever Changed, but which is Grammy nominated as well. Can you tell us a little bit about making this album? What was the inspiration behind the album?
Well, the reason we cut that record in the first place was to get Wine into Water back out there. Sheila and I have this personal ministry of ours is to try to help people get sober and stay sober, and we just wanted to get Wine into Water back out there. That's the reason we did it, and it just turned into this whole other thing. It just got bigger and bigger, and it just morphed into something we had no idea what it was going to wind up like. I mean, it's just turned into this great thing. It's the best record I've ever made, I think. I had more fun making it than any record I've ever made, and we're going to do a video of Wine into Water and re-release that, probably next month. So it was just it started out a great thing, and we didn't know how we were going to sell it. We just figured we'd sell it at our shows, and we had no idea how we were going to sell it. And then we got hooked up with Sony, and then about a month ago, Cracker Barrel got on board and ordered several thousand of them for their stores, and then Provident Records, which is the biggest gospel label in the world, got on board. So it's really turned into some sort of big deal, which I'm glad of. And all the profits go to this church building ministry called International Cooperating Ministries in Virginia Beach. And yeah, we're part of this church building organization, and we build churches in third world countries where the gospel's never been brought, and, from places just way out in the middle of nowhere in the jungles or up on mountains, or like Vietnam and the Philippines and Cambodia and Central America, South America, all over India, all over Africa. We got a couple in Russia. I think we got 5 in China, 1 or 2 in Iran, believe it or not. And we got 5,000 that have been built so far, and the goal is to have 10,000 by 2020. And we just decided we'd give all the proceeds to this album to International Cooperating Ministries. It's ICM.org. And God bless this whole process from the beginning, and it's just turned into this great thing. And I'm very thankful for it, Sheila and I both.
Yes, indeed. Well, let me ask you, Wine in the Water, which it was released in 1998, was the first time it was released to radio. It peaked number 47 on the U.S. country charts. But can you give us the inspiration behind that song? Because I know it means a lot to you. But Can you talk a little bit about that song and the inspiration behind writing it and where it comes from?
Yeah, well, you know, that song never was a hit, but there's a version of it on YouTube that somebody put up there. I was on the stage of the Ryman Auditorium with a bunch of my friends, and I sang it. This had almost 700,000 hits, and I know that's not a lot compared to some of these people that have 30 million, but that's a lot of people that are hurting out there that just found that song. And we just wrote it about me, about my problem with alcohol, and praise God, I don't drink anymore, and that was the best thing that ever happened to me. And Sheila stuck it out with me, and people would just, I don't know, that message of that song just, it's like everybody's either like I was or somebody real close to them's like that, and I think that's why that song been there all these years.
Yes, indeed. There's another song I want to ask you about. Well, I guess it is an album. It's called The Present. You released in 2006.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that album?
About that album? Yeah, well, I had these people that wanted me to do an album that's just, like positive message songs. It wasn't really a gospel album, but it was, you know, songs that are positive. And they gave us a little budget, and we went in. I took my band in there, and we went in the studio and cut a record, and it had a very limited release. Well, we sell them at shows. I think you can get them on the internet, you know, at different places, but I like that album. You know, it's not the biggest production by any means, because we didn't have enough money to do anything much. But I think it's a good little album.
Yes, indeed. And now you also, I mean, you worked with a lot of artists and everything, but one artist in particular I wanted to ask you about was Miss Tanya Tucker. You did a duet with her. I'm trying to remember the song now, and it's sad because I had it in my notes. Do you remember what song you did with her? Don't Go Out.
Yeah, I can never forget. It's called Don't Go Out, and it was a smash. It was a big hit. And, Tanya and I go way back. We were on Capitol Records together, and I love her very much, and she's one of our best friends. I don't get to see her enough, but she's one of the best friends we got in this world. She's great, got a big old heart. She's great, and she sings great, and I love her so much. But yeah, that was a big record, man. You know what's been fun is I've been able to work with some people. We did a Buddy Holly tribute that came out a couple of months ago, and it's got David Frizzell and Jimmy Fortune's on it, and Helen Cornelius and Sonny Curtis and Merle Haggard. And Merle and I have been knowing each other a long time, and I've been able to work with him. You know, the best thing, probably one of the coolest things about my whole career is I've been able to work with all my heroes and get to know all my heroes, and they actually like me. You know?
Yeah.
Kind of funny, but it's been a great ride, man.
Well, I mean, saying that, anybody that I've talked to and your name gets brought up, you're very well respected and you're very loved. It's the same thing with Marty Raybon the other night. I was from Shenandoah. I was talking with him, and I brought your name up, and nothing but great things to say about you. And so, I mean, for me, it's a real honor to sit here and talk with you because, as a musician in Louisiana, if you do not cover a T. Graham Brown song, you're not a Louisiana band. You know what I mean? So, I mean, you're very, very well respected, and you're very loved, and to see you still doing it is real. It's awesome.
Well, man, I'm so thankful. I got a lot of friends, and I'm really thankful for them. I just try to love people, you know. Sheila and I both. That's all we try not to put anything negative out there. You know, we don't want any negative vibes floating around.
Right. Now, you're also, I mean, we're going to get off the subject of music a little bit because you're also a big fan of the Andy Griffith Show, correct?
Yeah, it's like a sickness. I know way too much about the Andy Griffith Show. I could play Andy trivia with anybody on the planet and probably at least be as good as they are and probably beat them.
Yes, indeed. Yes. Did you ever have a chance to meet Andy or work with Andy?
Good Lord, I wish I had, man. I got 2 autographed pictures from him that friends got me, and I got a really nice thing from Don Knotts. But George Lindsay was a really close friend of mine, and you know, he was Goober on the show, and he came to see us. We were out in Hollywood playing with Kenny Rogers, and he called up the hotel room. I don't know how he found out. Wanted to know if he could take me and the whole band to breakfast the next morning. So we got up and got to meet Goober and eat breakfast with him, and it just turned into a lifelong friendship.
Yes.
By the way, I can whip him and too.
You whipped him in his own, and he was on the show.
Oh, I can tear him up. I did it on TV one time. It was embarrassing.
Yes, indeed. Sitting here talking with T. Graham Brown, y'all. T, I'm going to let you get back to your busy day here shortly. But before we go, is there any inspirational words that you can give to any inspiring musicians or recording artists out there that want to follow in your footsteps?
Oh, man, I would just say stay after it. You got to be hungry. You got to really want it. And if you're a songwriter, just try to write as many songs as you can, because that's the way you get to become a better songwriter. And, you know, I kind of hate when parents push their kids into it. I wish, you know, parents would let their kids be kids and go to school and graduate from school and learn something. I mean, there's always time to be a big star and all that. Plus, I never considered myself a big star, but, you know, I didn't move to Nashville till I was 27 years old, and you can hardly do that anymore. It's a lot harder these days than when I started out, I think, and I would just tell people just to work hard and sing at as many places you can, and you probably need to move to Nashville if that's what you want to do, is be a country singer. Is you're going to have to move to Nashville sooner or later. I don't think anybody's going to come to your house and discover you. You're probably going to have to come to Nashville.
Yes, indeed. All right, Mr. T. Is there tgrahambrown.com if you want to find out more and find out about his touring schedule? You can sign up for the newsletter. Hopefully we'll get back together in a couple months.
All right, buddy. Just call Sheila and we'll set it up.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. T. You have a great day.
Thanks for having me on your show, man.
Hey, anytime, man. Anytime.
Okay.
All right, bro.
God bless you.
Same to you.
Bye-bye.